Winds blowing all that around as well. So let's talk about the stormy or rainy side now of Jackson. As the storm system ejects out of the southwest, makes its way towards the nation's midsection, we're going to be seeing showers and thunderstorms developing. Right now, we've got a return southerly flow across parts of the Gulf Coast, and that's why we're seeing some of these spotty rain showers. So today it's just kind of hit and miss light stuff and not anything we're terribly concerned about. However, the storm system is going to be intensifying as it moves eastward and our surface low begins to develop. That moisture will continue to stream on northward along with some mild temperatures, adding to a little bit of instability into the atmosphere. This will push along towards the I-95 corridor as we head towards your late Sunday night into your Monday and Tuesday, when we'll start to see the wet weather there. So tracking the threat of a few stronger thunderstorms in the Arklatex region for tomorrow, especially along and east of Interstate 35. This will move towards the Mississippi River Valley as we move into your Sunday night. And then as we take a look at that severe weather threat, you'll notice it's kind of a narrow corridor. As I mentioned, the instability might be somewhat limited, so I think the most likely form of severe weather would be in the form of wind damage. Fort Smith, Texarkana, Tyler, as well as College Station all could see a few of those stronger thunderstorms. I'll be watching that threat here along the Gulf Coast under your Monday. I think it'll be more likely in New Orleans over towards Mobile, but hit and miss showers and thunderstorms also possible through much of the Tennessee River Valley. In fact, we could even get a few rumbles of thunder near the mid-Atlantic as we head into your Monday night and Tuesday, but just a chilly rain for you in places like Philadelphia as well as on up towards New York City. So rainfall amounts for the most part, think about a half of an inch, but in some of those thunderstorms we could see isolated spots that get heavier totals, more like an inch. As we take a look at the rainfall totals expected into the northeast, we're looking at more like an inch, maybe even as much as 2 inches. A little bit of a concern here as we're continuing to see some melting over the next couple of days. And notice a lot of green in the map here into the northeast as opposed to snow, but you're not going to get off the hook into parts of the New England.
Problematic, especially this year, but a friend of mine's son is actually allergic to Tamiflu. So then there's too, you know, it's just really scary.
It really is. I know quite a few people actually who have been dealing with those types of symptoms, 2 of which have just tested positive. And you might be asking yourself, not just why is this happening this time of the year, but what weather has to do with all of it. Well, this time of the year, our air masses can get very dry, and in dry air, the virus, the flu virus, can actually live longer, just in the dry air, but as well as onto dry surfaces. And remember when your mom said, don't go outside without a coat on, you're going to get sick? Well, cold does play some of a factor in this as well. The virus survives colder or longer in colder air, but more than anything else, it actually has to do with proximity to each other. This time of the year, everybody spends time indoors because it's cold outside, and when you're in close contact to other people, it's easier to catch that virus. And then last but not least, there's less sunlight and more time indoors that doesn't allow for sufficient vitamin D for you. Here's a look at the flu, by the way. Last year at this time, notice that we do have some red across the country, but still lots of localized cases. This year, when we take a look at the difference, every single one of the lower 48 states is reporting widespread flu. In fact, Kellyanne Reynolds, I was just reading on the CDC website saying that this may be the worst flu season in 9 years. Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about travel, because millions of Americans are going to be facing winter conditions traveling over the next couple of days with Winter Storm Jackson. So we are concerned about everybody and want to use this opportunity as a reminder that it really has a huge impact on your braking distance. Under normal driving conditions and dry pavement, the average braking distance is about 125 feet. That's when you're traveling at 50 miles per hour. Now, what happens when you add a little snow into the mix? And that's going to be the case in places like Cheyenne, Wyoming, all the way up towards Minneapolis, St. Paul. It takes you about 500 feet to be able to stop. And then icy conditions, double that. We're talking about at least 1,000 feet. And that puts you in the situation that by the time you see the car in front of you, it might be too late to stop before. All right, well, on the southern tier of this, we're going to be dealing with the rainy side of Jackson across parts of the south and even into parts of the nation's midsection. So we're tracking our big trough in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and notice the moisture streaming across the Four Corners region right now. Now we do have some spotty showers already across the Gulf Coast states into Texas as well as Louisiana. That's a little bit of return flow ahead of an area of low pressure that's going to be pushing in along with high pressure off towards the east where the warmer air is going to be in place. Low pressure develops at the surface as this ejects out of the Rockies, helping to pull more warmth and more moisture up ahead of it. It will be touching pretty much every corner of the lower 48 as it makes its way across the U.S. and affecting the Northeast as we head into the early part of next week. A few thunderstorms could be strong, possibly severe across the Arklatex region. That's late in the day on your Sunday as well as into your Sunday night. Look at the rain moving all the way up into St. Louis as well as into the lower Great Lakes region as we head into your Sunday night. And there you can see the severe weather risk area, primarily looking at potential for some damaging winds. And this storm system is going to bring some hefty snow in some places that are actually going to be welcoming it, where we've had a bit of a snow drought. So take a look at this. Tahoe City in California, you're nearly 7 feet down for the season so far. Salt Lake City are now up to 10.2 inches of snowfall. We know at least 4 of that number happened to come from just today alone, and those numbers are going to continue to go up just a little bit. Here's a look at where we have all the winter storm watches, warnings, and advisories. So this is covering a whole lot of people from the Cascades down towards California, through the Wasatch, into the Rockies, and yes, eventually into the upper Midwest, where you're going to see a hefty swath of snow. There you can see the snow coming down in Salt Lake City, as I mentioned, across parts of Wyoming, pushing into Colorado. So low pressure is going to be developing now at the surface as it ejects out of the Four Corners region. And notice the location of this one. Back in the Midwest, when I was forecasting there, we'd call these Oklahoma hookers based on the hook shape of the forecast track as it moves very quickly up towards the Great Lakes. And that historically can bring some very hefty snows on the northern tier of this, particularly along the warm front. So we are expecting quite a swath of 6 to 12 inches of snowfall in the path. Here you can see the areas getting the snow today across Utah into western parts of Colorado, through much of Wyoming. As we head into tonight, this gets into parts of the Dakotas as well as into the panhandle of Nebraska. This is more of a tomorrow event for you in northwestern Iowa, into southern Minnesota, and then eventually making its way into Wisconsin through your Monday as well. Notice the isobars, or the equal lines of pressure associated with this, as that low continues to track in that direction. That means we're going to have some really windy conditions to go along with the hefty snow that's going to create some really hazardous travel conditions and some blowing and drifting on the backside of this. And then notice how this all exits the region as we head into the afternoon hours on your Tuesday. So how much snowfall for you? Here's that big swath. We think of maybe the 6 to 12 inch marks. The Twin Cities, we're watching you because we could have a really sharp cutoff, I think, from the northern suburbs to the southern suburbs. We're also going to get a little ice coming in along with this. We think especially in southern Minnesota and western parts of Wisconsin, places like Eau Claire, as well as down towards Rochester and Winona. Here's a look at the snowfall so far this season. Minneapolis, almost 13 inches for you, but look at where you should be for this time of the year. You're down by more than a foot. Also, for all of you fans that are going to be watching that game, keep that in mind for tomorrow night. You might be okay getting to your football party, but coming back, I think you're going to have some big travel issues.